It is finally here, The Fall of Numenor, compilation of Tolkien's Second Age work in one volume. And oh, I could not be happier. I spent the weekend reading through this, and I won't lie, I've read some of this before, some of it's new-ish to me anyway, and ultimately, I am not disappointed. I just want to say that. Now, links and info are down below. If you're interested in becoming a membership or Patreon, please feel free. So, what is it? So, Tolkien himself described the Second Age as a dark age of Middle-earth. And it wasn't really until the publication of the Silmarillion that we got a fuller story. That was after Tolkien's death. This work is stunning, and I mean that. And it really is a stunning book. The art plates are beautiful, and it's such a fun thing to get these stories and history of this point in Middle-earth. And sorry to disappoint Rings of Power fans, nothing in here bears any resemblance to that god-awful television show. I thought, just to say, so you might be disappointed. Gatekeeping is a good thing. It is. It really is in some cases. Now, this is an interesting one where the Silmarillion predominantly contains a lot of First Age stuff, and it contains snippets and histories of the Second Age. It connects key works that talk about Numenor, the history of the Rings of Power, the rise out of the Great Sea, and gifted to the men of Middle-earth as a reward. And this is a beautiful insight into it. So it combines works from, and I'm going to quote the book directly, even greater insight into the Second Age would be revealed in the subsequent publications, first in the unfinished tales of Numenor and Middle-earth, then expanded upon in Christopher Tolkien's majestic 12-volume The History of Middle-earth, in which he presents and discusses the wealth of further details written by his father and many in draft form. Now adhering to the timeline of the Tale of Years in the appendices of the Lord of the Rings, this is a compulsive history of Second Age Middle-earth, told in the words of J.R. Tolkien from varying published texts and beautiful watercolour illustrations. So this work combines all of the Second Age stuff. Touches upon the First Age because there are links, there are moments, but it predominantly, 99% of this book is Second Age. It goes into beautiful details of the fall of Numenor, it goes into details of the world, the history, the races, the people, everything that's happening within the realms of Middle-earth at this point in history. Many upon many thousands of years are covered in this one volume, and I will say, some of it I have read before. If you've read the Silmarillion, certain elements of this book are in there, certain elements are pulled from the Lost Tales and Unfinished Works, but a lot of this is pulled from the Legendarium, and has been published in snippets, strips, drabs, short stories, and so on, but now it's all condensed into this one big volume, and it's a beautiful thing. Tolkien's world is just rich, and tells such a beautiful story, that you realise there are thousands of stories that have taken place within this world. The history of this world feels real and current, written effectively as a mythology based on Anglo-Saxon Britain. This beautiful work just distills that into one big thing. I've read the Silmarillion, and I've read countless other Tolkien works, but to have the Second Age in this beautiful volume is not only a brilliant way of reading it, but it really does lay it out, and you realise the beauty of his work and the world, and how rich that world is, how rich those characters are, how rich this history is. In adaptation, I was going to talk about briefly the adaptation to the Rings of Power, but they're not actually adapting any of this material. They're adapting throwaway lines from the Peter Jackson movies and the appendices at the back of the Return of the King. This is the true Second Age, how it should be read, how it should be enjoyed, how it should be. Where the Rings of Power is not Tolkien's Second Age, it is intersectional feminism presented with a fantasy skin. The struggles of these characters, their lives, the wealth of knowledge that runs so beautifully in this work is just this spectacular thing to get your teeth into. It's very easy to get lost in the world of Tolkien, and as I've said many times, the first age volumes were stunning. And now we have a complete second age, and I get why this was done in one volume rather than several novels, for the simple reason there isn't as much on the second age. But this really does go to show the beauty of it all. The dark age of Middle-earth, the relationship between the elves and the man. The second age was predominantly a time of elves, so it's a very complicated bit of history there that's very easy to skim over. If you've watched the Peter Jackson movies, you've seen glimpses of the Second Age, where the elves wear the rings, and you see the rings forging and the epic battle. There are glimpses of the Second Age. There are references to it. There are references throughout. And this volume is such a beautiful way of enjoying it, and it's such an interesting way. When you look at it, you realise that there is a wealth of work here, a wealth of stories that could easily be a movie, could easily be a television show. But again, they chose not to do it. And I say this, the lovely quote that they put at the beginning of the book is from Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, Book 2, The Council of Elrond. And it ends on the lines of Numenor he spoke, its glory, its full, and the return of kings of men to Middle-earth, out of the depths of the sea, borne upon the wings of storm. And I mean this. Like, I just inhaled this book, and I couldn't put it down. I've not slept because of this book. I've read so much second age stuff, but there's new insight, more of the Legendarium, more of those pieces, more of those fragments compiled into this one beautiful history book. I mean, literally, the stories that are told, the characters, everything that's happening. It even gives you history of locations and just this, again, rich world building, which is missing from so much modern fantasy. Beautiful writing, beautifully charming characters that you get presented with, snippets of history and events and battles and relationships with these characters. This is a worthy collection to have on any Tolkien shelf, even if you own other Second Age publications. Like I said, these are dotted throughout the Legendarium, but there isn't one cohesive volume. So for the first time, we have a cohesive volume of the Second Age of Middle-earth. And what I will say, and I said it before, Rings of Power fans are going to be so disappointed. There's no intersectional feminism. There is no Galadriel with a giant sword from Final Fantasy. She does not ride a horse slow motion across a beach. She is quite happily married with children, but she is the magic user of Tolkien's work. And again, one of the most important female characters in terms of history of Middle-earth and within fantasy. This is a beautiful volume, and I encourage you all to buy it. I encourage you all to at least read it, because you will not be disappointed, especially if you love Tolkien's world.